gentle listener, and welcome to Nocturnal Transmissions, the fortnightly podcast that brings you dark tales, both old and new, performed by your humble narrator, Kristin Holland. Oh dear, we owe you, and a couple of our authors for that matter, an apology. Our last episode, featuring Fruit by Michael McEwen Bondus, and episode 212, featuring The Shelf Life of Man by David Winchester, both had a bit of a glitch with their audio when first released. We can't thank Damnably Curious George enough for bringing this to our attention. The issue has been remedied, but just in case you tried listening to these episodes and found the volume level excruciatingly low, we assure you, you may now hear them as intended. Now, a quick bit of technical advice before we move on. Your podcast app may have automatically downloaded the first low-volume incarnation of these episodes. If things still don't sound right at your end, go into the Episode Podcast Options tab and click Remove Download. You may also want to select Mark as Played or Mark as Finished, just to be on the safe side. Then go to the See All Episodes button and select the episode again. Hopefully that all won't be necessary, but just in case our repaired versions don't appear for you, that's the workaround. Please do revisit these stories if you are one of the unlucky ones who had a disappointing experience first time around. The Shelf Life of Man is good technophobic fun, and Fruit is a dark lyrical dream whose nightmare logic will have you on your toes from start to finish. So, again, apologies. We spend so much time fiddling about with our presentations, trying to create a diverting listening experience. And frankly, something like this is our worst nightmare. All right, well, anyway, let's take a leaf out of good old Tay-Tay's book and shake it off, shall we? And what better way to do that than with a new story, hopefully presented within the range of human hearing. Nocturnal Transmissions is proud to present The Gargling Shower by Mark Humphries. Barry scowled and June gaped at the enormous shower. The estate agent rustled through his loose papers and peeked at the couple. His face had flushed. He coughed and said, yes. He didn't elaborate. Barry Winstead leafed through his own glossy leaflet and found the bathroom photo. June murmured, "It's..." She fumbled for the word. "Big." Her husband grunted. "It looks nothing like the one here." He prodded the page. "I don't understand, Buster." June winced. She hated it when her husband used that word. The estate agent rested one hand on the gleaming shower door. He swallowed and said, "Beautiful, though, isn't it? I remember now. The owners decided to put it in after they put the place on the market." June peered around the small bathroom at the peeling paint and the tiny cracked window. The decrepit room was a continuation of the rest of the property. Barry had wanted a project, and so far this run-down cottage had met his expectations. She had trailed behind her husband and offered a weak smile every time he had stated what he would do if he bought the place. She touched the glass, and it shimmered beneath her touch. She asked, "Why did the owners put it in afterwards?" She noticed she was whispering. The estate agent straightened his pink tie and replied, "The owners are, how can I put it, eccentric." He blinked. Nobody spoke. The only sound was Barry's heavy breathing. The Winsteads focused on the pristine cubicle. 3 gold levers formed a U-shape on the wall. A little higher up there was a 4th gold knob, and 2 round holes appeared above this. A gigantic gilded showerhead overlooked the mechanisms below. 5 curved points emerged from its shiny round surface, like talons. Deciding to gamble on a demonstration, the estate agent leaned inside the glass box. He turned the nearest handle. A scolding jet blasted from the first hole in the wall and punched his arm aside. "Shit!" He yanked the lever to its original position and rubbed his sleeve. He reddened again. "Apologies for my language," he added. "It's nice and hard." Barry grinned. "Looks powerful too, Buster." He thumped the estate agent's soaked arm. The other man's grimace matched June's. He gestured to the landing. "Shall we see the rest of the property?" As the group traipsed out, no one noticed the shower door edge shut behind them. Barry Winstead loved the cottage. June knew better than to disagree with him. Mr. Winstead called the office and placed an offer the same afternoon. 2 months later, the couple moved in, and their lives changed forever. June winced as she slipped out of her dusty clothes. Her arms and ribs still ached from the week before. She had been careless. After aimless wandering in the town centre, her last possible train had been delayed, and she had arrived home later than planned. She had rushed around to the kitchen to get dinner ready for Barry's return, and undercooked his pie. The moment Barry's fork had slammed onto the plate, she had braced. The beatings were worse if she ran, and she never fought back. She peered at the gold shower handles on the wall. The levers, knob, and holes reminded her of a grinning Halloween pumpkin. She glanced up at the 5 sharp points on the shower head and shivered. The estate agent had scolded himself using the first handle in the row. Afterwards she noticed he had gingerly touched his arm when he thought they weren't looking. She opted for the central nose. She rotated the knob, and a warm cascade emerged from the 5 overhead claws. The temperature and pressure were perfect. June eased into the waterfall and relaxed as the soothing streams caressed and cleansed her bruised arms. She felt the dull throb in her ribs drain away in the foam at her feet. Inside the jets, her skin became smooth. She had an uncontrollable urge to do something she had not done since life before Barry. She needed to sing. She burst into the chorus of a pop song from her youth. "Sunshine on a rainy day makes my soul trip, trip, trip away." She giggled and spun in a circle on one foot. She stretched out her arms and unleashed a high-pitched, "I'm singing in the rain." She began to hop on one foot and followed this with a star jump. She tilted her head upward, opened her mouth, and let the jet tickle her tonsils. At that moment, June Winstead did something else she hadn't done since her childhood. She gargled. And the shower gargled back. June blinked and stepped out of the cascade. She turned off the central knob and listened. Nothing. Not even a drip. Nothing. She stared at the shower head towering above and demanded aloud, "Did you just gargle?" She chuckled and added, "Come on, I won't bite." Buster. She found this reassurance hysterical, and a snot string shot from her nostril. "Oops!" She wiped her nose with a towel and bent double as giggles seized her body. She dropped to one knee and laughed harder. Then June remembered her husband was downstairs, and her laughter stopped. Light-headed, she rose to her feet and peered into the mirror. Her eyes widened. Although Barry was careful never to hit her face, a marriage of perpetual stress and fear had inflicted its own beating. Her once luscious hair had thinned, and her forehead had lined. June frowned, rubbed the mirror surface, and leaned closer. Her hairline had advanced and appeared thicker. She touched her brow. It was flat. She mouthed, "Eh?" and noticed something else. The bruises on her ribs and arms had disappeared. Barry Winstead put down his mallet and studied his wife. He grunted. "Has something happened?" June tensed. "No? Why?" he said. "You look..." His voice trailed off and his eyes narrowed. She felt them frisking her. She had tied back her hair and put on a baggy jumper. Frozen, she didn't reply. He added, "Well?" She swallowed. "I'm just happy we bought this place." Barry frowned. Silence smothered the air between them. Then Winstead broke into a toothy grin. He yanked his wife towards him and hugged her tight. He breathed into her wet hair. "I'm pleased to hear it, Junie. I'm pleased to hear it." Suspended in his sweaty grip, June waited for the embrace to end. Then he dropped her and strode to the staircase. He said, "I'm having a shower," and added, "Can you put the oven on, Junie?" It wasn't a request. Later that evening, June peeked at her husband as he devoured his steak pie. He still had chapped lips and calloused knuckles. They ate in silence. Barry was unaltered. June scrutinized the shower cubicle and wondered for the millionth time if she had imagined the gargle. She touched her unblemished ribs and rubbed her hand through her thickened hair. She whispered, "Thank you," and stepped inside. Mrs. Winstead turned the middle knob and exhaled as the soft stream washed over her body. The familiar need to sing rose within, but she resisted the urge. Instead, she stretched her arms, opened her mouth wide, and let the warm water pour in. She paused and then discharged a mighty gargle. The pool slobbered out down the sides of her mouth. June waited and craned her neck as she listened for a response. And then it came. A loud resonance matching her own in length and tone blasted from the drain at her feet. She sprang aside, heart pounding, and then whooped. Beaming, she peered down at the hole. Water continued to bounce off her shoulders and back and swirl into the opening. June realized her body was shaking as adrenaline coursed through her bloodstream. She tilted back her head and beckoned more of the downpour into her mouth. The jet felt stronger this time. Mrs. Winstead tensed and then gargled. "Fuck him!" The shower fired an instant response. Its gargle was louder, and its words matched June's. June stared at the floor and tried to ignore the acne-riddled checkout assistant. She could feel his lustful glances as Barry heaved the smaller DIY supplies onto the belt. In her mind, she pleaded, "Look the other way." But his beady eyes continued to roam. The teenager scanned a paint tin twice and realized his mistake. He mumbled an apology. Barry gritted his teeth and said, "No problem, Buster." He didn't look at his wife. Mr. Winstead paid, and June followed her husband to the Land Rover. They drove home in silence. Barry's scraped knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his jaw clenched and unclenched. June spotted the signs and dropped her head. June Winstead removed the towel and gazed at her thighs and buttocks. She had waited for the kicks, followed by Barry's breathless justifications, to subside. She had lain on the floor until her husband left the room, and then limped up to the bathroom. Now she smiled as she stroked the healed skin. She pulled on her pajamas, walked down the landing, and stopped. He had pummeled her left side. She began to drag this leg as she descended the stairs. Barry didn't refer to the earlier evening's events over dinner. He broke the silence with one announcement. "I'll start on the shower tomorrow." June Winstead lay awake as her husband snored beside her. Her thoughts were pinging in all directions. Leaving Barry wasn't an option. He had control of all their accounts, and she had nowhere to go. She had minimal contact with her parents on the other side of the world, and all her friendships had deteriorated since Barry. Besides, she had tried to escape before, and it had ended in a trip to A&E. But June couldn't allow her husband to destroy the shower. She wouldn't return to the weeks of aching and soreness. Keeping the shower also presented its own risks. What if he accidentally struck her face? It had happened a few times before. How would she hide the healing from him? And then when he learnt she'd been lying. Mrs. Winstead felt a stray sunbeam creep through the curtains and rest on her cheek. She picked up her glass, eased out of bed, and crept along the landing. As she opened the bathroom door, the shower cubicle was also glinting in the morning sun. June shouted downstairs, "Barry!" The hammering stopped. There was a clatter and a grumbled curse. She heard her husband's voice. "What? I'm busy!" June made her voice as pitiable as possible. She replied, "Could you come upstairs, please, love? I really need you." She hesitated. Her heart was battering her chest. "There's a really big spider in the bathroom." There was a moment's silence, followed by a long, rumbling groan. He replied, "Honestly, Junie, you need to start dealing with life's little difficulties. I can't always be here to rescue you." His heavy footfalls began to climb, and his bulk materialized on the landing. He shook his head, tutted, and strode past his wife. June remembered to limp behind. He shoved open the bathroom door and scanned the interior. He asked, "Well, where is it, Junie?" His wife pointed. "In the shower." Her husband sighed and leaned into the cubicle. "Where?" His voice was rising, and his patience was dropping. June Winstead took a breath, stepped back, and threw herself forward. She rammed into Barry's arched back, and his mass did the rest. He toppled into the shower stall, and his skull thudded against the rear wall. Seizing her chance, June slammed the shower screen shut. Through the glass, Barry's head lolled, and she noticed a trickle of blood on his brow. Ears ringing with adrenaline, she felt a surge of triumph. Winstead tried to get up, but slid back down again. Dazed, he touched his head and gaped at the blood on his fingertip. His focus began to clear. He looked back at June and snarled, "You fucking bitch!" June turned and grabbed her glass from the sink. Shower water swished inside. Barry's scowl didn't waver from his face. He started to rise. His jaw was grinding. June clutched the container in both trembling hands. Water was sloshing over the sides. Barry was on his feet. He raged. "Oh, you're gonna fucking get it this time, Junie baby!" June's mind shrieked. "Now!" She upended the shower water into her mouth. Barry stopped moving and gawped at his partner. "Eh?" June Winstead's eyes bored into her husband's as she held the loaded puddle in her stretched cheeks. Then she tipped back her head and fired. She gargled her instruction as loudly and as clearly as she could. "Kill Barry." The shower drain bellowed its gargled response. "Kill Barry." Barry Winstead goggled at the hole in the floor and rubbed his head. Time slowed, and June felt a calm descend upon her body. She watched her husband. He looked like a puzzled gorilla at the zoo. He raised his eyes to hers, and she saw something else. Unbridled hatred. There was a long pause. Nothing happened. June's brief serenity evaporated. Her mind yelled, "He's going to get out and kill you! Run! Run now!" But she couldn't move. The ape yanked at the screen. It held fast. His eyes snapped to the handle. He heaved again. It didn't budge. He pulled back his fist and launched it into the glass. There was a huge bang, but it didn't break. Blood oozed from his knuckles and left a smear on the pane. He roared and began to pummel the door. And the shower retaliated. There was an ear-shattering screech as the shower's neck extended and swung. Its gilded head whipped over Barry's skull, and like a snake mouth, it bit. The 5 fangs plunged deep into Winstead's crown. He screamed as bone crunched and cracked. June heard a squelch and wondered if it was her husband's brain. Rooted, she watched the nightmare unfold. The showerhead lifted Barry's twitching body. His eyes rolled as his feet dangled. Suspended, he looked like a toy caught in a fairground claw machine. Barry's mouth opened and closed like a fish snatched from a pond, but there were no words. Saliva bubbles formed and popped on his lips. The snake mouth clamped deeper and spun. There was a scraping noise as metal soared through bone. Barry's corpse jerked and dropped to the stall floor. The top half of his head hung dripping from the shower's 5 hooks. It tossed the trophy away and started to clear up. The showerhead teeth continued to chomp, rotate, and cut Barry's carcass. Water blasted from the holes in the wall. Gristle, bone fragments, and flesh swirled down the drain. June watched the entire operation. When Barry's last remains had glugged away, June leaned inside the gleaming stall and turned the central knob. She filled her container and poured the water into her mouth. She gargled, "Thank you," and raised her empty glass. The shower gargled, "Thank you, Joe." A solitary tear slid down the woman's face. She smiled, nodded, and left the bathroom. She looked at the new banister installed by her recently deceased husband. She broke into a grin, leapt onto the rail, and whooped. As June raced to the bottom, she heard gargled laughter from the floor above. The Gargling Shower by Mark Humphries. Mark Humphries works as an English teacher for refugees and asylum seekers, but is happiest when writing. His stories have appeared in numerous anthologies, including Tales from the Moonlit Path, Stygian Lepus Magazine, Schlock, Dragon Soul Presses, A Winter Kiss, and previously on the Nocturnal Transmissions podcast, episode 198, The Caravan. Links to all his fiction can be found on his Facebook page. You'll find the link in the featured authors section of our website, nocturnaltransmissions.com.au. Before we leave you, a big welcome to our newest Patreon acolytes, John Moran and Lycan90. Hello, you two. Welcome aboard. And a big thank you to our Patreon cohorts for helping us to make this show happen. Fangora Brown, Bool Swivney, Jerry Taylor, Heathen Soul, Tim Howard, Daniel Clanton, Jimmy Mack, Rebecca Gates, Daniel Kamiankowski, Robert Troy Hampton Peterson, Amanda Moore, Kel Wielden, Rachel Brown, Johnny Kelly, Wayne Prince, Tippy Polo, Adam, Alex Brewers, Evan Dooley, Crunchy Kirby, and Drenny. And now we bid you a fond farewell. This transmission was transmitted by Nocturnal Transmissions. All non-public domain stories are featured with the permission of the authors. All voices and production are concocted by Kristin Holland. Until next time, as always, watch the skies eyes, fear the dark, and don't trust anyone, especially yourself. Good night, gentle listener.
Then that's the time to say good night and close your